Перейдем к самой приятной части. Мы приглашаем разных музыкантов. У нас есть музыканты не только из Екатеринбурга, не только из России, но и из других стран. И мы считаем неправильным, если музыканты просто приехали на один день или на одну ночь, сыграли на фестивале и быстрее на самолет. Мы хотим большего, мы хотим общения, мы хотим, чтобы музыканты делились своим опытом, своими знаниями. Мы готовы делиться своим опытом с вами, если вам будет интересно узнать что-то про екатеринбургскую, уральскую и российскую музыку. Я рада приветствовать группу Three for Silver из США. Ребята вчера играли на сцене «Центр» на фестивале «Старый Новый рок». И, что интересно, наши коллеги играют на абсолютно неожиданных музыкальных инструментах, которые даже сделаны сами. Вы их увидите, потому что это будет по-настоящему живой мастер-класс, живая лекция. Мы будем играть музыку, и ребята раскроют секреты процессов создания музыкального материала. Ваши аплодисменты я передаю. Я еще хочу представить по именам и рассказать некое строгое правило. Это Лукас. Давайте похлопаем. Это Вилла. Самое главное правило, что если вы хотите задать вопрос, пожалуйста, не терпите. Задавайте вопрос. Мы хотим, чтобы у нас с вами было сегодня живое общение. Спасибо.
Good?
Yeah.
Great. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to first definitely once again encourage everybody that we're going to be talking for about an hour and playing some music about ourselves and what we do, but more than that, if any questions that come into you, don't wait for like any kind of specific Q&A time or something along those lines, but just, please just jump right in. Are there any like working musicians here or aspiring musicians or anything like that in the crowd tonight? Got a couple out there. Cool. Great. Doesn't matter even if you're not. Like I like to think that what we have to share and talk about expressing ourselves is probably equally valid and relevant no matter what your level of interest in just like performing music is, but just in your life in general. So we're going to be talking a lot about like our inspiration and our songwriting process and how that's led to our unique instruments and the way that we approach folk music, which is often the kind of broad category that we get grouped into, and then how it also leads into just like, if you're interested, if you have a band or you're trying to like grow a band, then also on the level of the broadest level of creating the brand and image of your band, like starting with the songwriting and building outward from there. Did anybody have the opportunity to see us perform yesterday or are familiar with our music at all? Got one, got two, got three, like that brutal honesty. That's what's up. We should just play, I kind of want to just play a song so the rest of you know that we're not just charlatans who somehow snuck our way up on stage here. Is that, yeah?
Yes, please.
Cool. One person's interested, that's all I care about. I'm just going to keep looking at her. Good. All right. Oops. We'll play a brand new song here, just to kick things off in the most terrifying way possible for us. I wake and feel the fill of dark across the fields to feed the lilies. The swaying of the cedars cease their shift. I hear this evening's evil calling. Oh, come now, landlord, fill your cup. 'Cause in the morning you'll be sober. Oh,
tiny spoon is the one you're sucking sweet from. Ooh, black dog. Ooh, black dog. Ooh, black dog. He's hanging around my window now. Said the shadow to the man. Oh, that you see me, it's no wonder. But don't you think too hard. No, don't you think too long. Oh, these thoughts, they will rise and pull you under. But I said, shut your mouth. Oh, you shut your mouth. Yeah, you shut your mouth. Shut your mouth and sing. Ooh, black dog. Sing. Ooh, black dog. Sing. Ooh, black dog. It ain't around my window. Now said the man to the shadow, oh, you be not proud, some call you mighty. Cause can't you feel my boot? Oh, it's on your neck. And you see, I'm the only reason that you're breathing. Oh, but I'll pour my cup when I lay you at the bottom of the field to feed the lilies. And I'll be singing, ooh, black dog. I sing, ooh, black dog. Ooh, black dog. He's hanging around my window. Yeah, I said, quit hanging around my window. I said, quit hanging around my. All right, well, that was a nice way for us to warm up anyways. Yeah, so I think when they asked us if we wanted to come speak in addition to playing at the festival, they had what we might be interested in talking about. I was kind of worse, but I think when they asked us what we wanted to come speak about, I thought what we had, what might be interesting was, I feel like we've managed to come surprisingly far with very atypical instruments and, you know, a sound that's not too common. There's different strands of types of music that weave in and out, but we work really hard to speak kind of with our own voice and be able to talk more about that and our approach to folk music, which is broadly how it usually tends to get categorized.
It's true, we're not particularly used to doing talks like this when we're performing in America in our standard regime for performance. So it's really nice to have the opportunity to connect with people, with audience members outside of the show. Really opens things up. Because a lot of times we tour a lot, we play shows, 200-something shows a year usually, and it's such a kind of brutal schedule. So just one place to the next, and you don't really get to meet people. So it's really nice to get to be here and express some of this side of it. I hope that you all feel comfortable asking us questions about anything you want at any point in time. Just jump out.
Yeah, so I was led, I might talk a little bit about my instruments first, because I feel like they inform a lot of what I do. And I first started playing guitar, and I was really drawn to swing music. And the first reason I ever started playing music at all was Django Reinhardt and jazz manouche and that kind of thing. And I got drawn to electric bass and the percussive possibilities of it. But I could never figure out a way to make electric bass work in the kind of weird old music that I like. If you like to imagine somebody slapping an electric bass along with the Django Reinhardt album, maybe not work. I don't know. I could never figure out a way to make it work, and so I kept trying to push farther and farther with my ideas about what bass instruments were capable of to see, where I could be led to find the kind of voice that I wanted to speak with. And it led me to first the tub here, which I worked on with a friend of mine, which is basically a traditional upright bass, but we took a wash tub and strapped the strings on top of it here.
While he's showing that off, I'll just share my experience from watching this bass we created. Lucas and I were in a band before 3 for Silver called the Orchestra, and we traveled around Europe and the United States a lot. And we had an upright bass player who was not Lucas, was his friend.
What?
His friend. No, it was Tom. It was Tom. I know, I said confusing. So a man named Tom Penalosa was playing upright in the band, and we kept thinking, it's so hard to have this upright on tour. Sometimes our rental cars are very small, and it would be so cool to have a collapsible bass that was affordable, and sounded good, and you could play it on the street, and you could also take it on the plane. You don't have to worry about it breaking. He even had one upright bass snap, the neck broke off on a bicycle tour in Ireland, so it was just this problem needed to be solved. So they put their heads together, and by the time 3 for Silver had been formed, this contraption had been created in a few different variations.
So lets me play not just like a regular upright bass, and not just be able to slap, but I can also use the body as percussion itself, which has allowed me to develop a pretty unique style of playing upright bass instruments, where I can play, such as like. And be able to do.
Oh, sorry, this is just the acoustic sound too. It also has pickups, internal mic-making system. So when you plug it in, if you were at the concert yesterday, you can hear the difference between how much bass is actually possible. But it also looks cool. It's a spectacle anyways.
Mostly I just didn't want to pay a drummer to be in the band. Yeah.
Always frugal.
And from there, I tried to think about how I could take standard electric bass and make something that made sense within the kind of folk musics and older styles of music that we like to listen to. And I got drawn to resonator instruments, or dobro guitars, the metal-bodied guitars, which have a very percussive and twangy and metallic sound. And traditionally used in blues music and things like that, and a little bit in swing music. And I approached National, which is a dobro guitar luthier, if they'd be interested in trying to design a bass with me. And they were, and so that led to the creation of this, which is pretty much the only 5-string bass dobro that we know of that exists. But it lets me play kind of like a guitar, kind of like a bass, like a very low register, but able to do chords. And I think it's led to being, I don't know, let's just say, I'm always, this is a huge part of the songwriting for us, digging into these instruments and trying to find their voice. And I think that's a huge part of, it doesn't matter if you have instruments, I've come to a place where I have these instruments that are unique just to me, but even if you're just having an acoustic guitar or, any instrument at all, the more time, I think so much of it is digging in to find what is your unique voice with that instrument. And I think that's one thing that I'm always trying to encourage people to do, is not just to play in the traditional styles that you hear, but the more time you can spend with yourself digging into that instrument, you're going to find your own voice, just as only you could speak with your own speaking voice, you have a way of expressing yourself that's totally unique to you on your instrument, if you can, find the time to take it out of there, And maybe that leads you to a place that's more extreme, like with me, where the instruments themselves become this unique thing. Or maybe it just leads to a place where, you are, if you're picking up guitar or whatever the instrument might be, a violin, like, you know that only you are the one who could be making that sound. Like, when I first started writing songs when I was a kid, I didn't really understand that you could just take just generic chords and lay words on top of it. Like, I thought that even a chord that I made like had to be completely, even like the shape of the chord had to be totally unique to something that I came up with for a song, which was absurd and didn't make any sense. So I got rid of that. But
yeah, and if you're as far as finding your own voice and ways of self-expression through your instrument, you know, for me, I'm not classically trained. I turned itself off. Creepy. I'm self-taught and I'm influenced by many different types of music. I started mostly with voice and piano a little bit, and then I just picked up the accordion because I was playing in a band that played klezmer and Eastern European folk music and swing. And the instrument lended itself to this music, so I learned to play the accordion in the band, learning about the band's repertoire, and learning to write my own songs on this instrument that was very foreign to me. And so, as a result, my own style has become kind of an amalgamation of like sort of hacked jazz and Eastern European scales and stuff, and adapting that to our own American roots in folk music and jazz and blues, and how we write songs together and finding through lines in that, and the chemistry between the collaborative aspect of our songwriting as a band.
does anybody want to talk about it, ask anything themselves, or lead in any particular direction? We'll just keep going.
Or we won't. There we go.
So you talked with, you started, if I understand correctly, you started to write a song from instruments.
Yeah, I think for me, I am often, I take like increasing inspiration from one thing about always trying to, I think one of the things about, there it goes, keeps turning off. I have, being drawn to trying to make these instruments. I have like a bass banjo too, and some other strange instruments that I've built. Is like it puts you into a state where you're really trying to be in tune with listening to the voice of the instrument and how it wants to be played. And I feel like I'm always being led in that way. And I feel like that's very exciting because it makes me feel like I'm not even necessarily in control. It's like I have to apply myself to the instrument to play it, but mostly I have to listen to it and what kind of voice it wants to speak with and what is natural for it, and that leads me, to the path of writing so many of these songs and the things that I play.
And what about songs? Do you write text of a song first or melody?
Depends. It depends. There's sometimes, I think I can speak for both of us, but sometimes lyrics will come to you very strongly. You have this idea for a story or just something lyrical sounding, and then you try to develop some kind of scheme for that to exist within rhyme pattern or something, or just a kind of the words and the melody happen at the same time. And other times it's like, oh, that's a cool chord progression, or I really like the resonance of these two notes together in this interval. I'd like to incorporate that somehow. Like, how can I use this in a song? So definitely, I have songs that I'm writing that are mostly music without the words. And I have to go and figure out how to put words to this. And I also have pages full of word ideas. Like, this is going to be a good lyric somehow. I just have to figure out how to put them together. So there's both.
I'm always obsessed with the words, personally. That's what I spend a lot of my time working on. I want people to be able to interact with the lyrics, just written down and reading them, to be as meaningful as listening to the song. And for me, it's like a test that any of my lyrics have to pass, is that even if you're just reading it like it was a poem, it would be totally valid on its own, and not something that you can only interact with just through listening to the tune. Because a lot of songs, when you see the words written down, you're like, oh. but I definitely prefer the wordier side of it.
It's true. Lucas's songwriting is he really taps into the storytelling side of things really well. Clever use of words, and I think I tend to draw more on like imagery and evoking emotion through these images. And there's some storyline that also, even whenever I was writing songs as a kid, I was mostly finding ways to express myself that still left it open for interpretation to be drawn. You know, not necessarily telling you how to feel in the song, but allowing you to experience the emotion that's being expressed and also find some way to connect in that, like relating to that emotion or even experiencing a totally different emotion because of these images or this melody, how they work together.
So with that in mind, here's a dramatic example of that. We're going to play this, kind of break down the song of ours called Rivers. It was one of our older tunes. And it first came out of just a very straightforward waltz idea that Willow was working with. And
Yeah, it was like, sorry, I don't have a microphone for this, but it was a song idea. I'm like, oh, I should write a waltz because I haven't written a waltz. I've just played other people's waltzes. So it was actually weird to play it this way because we've changed it so much since this. Let's just play how it is now.
see, and it came at me with the idea for that melody. It's a very kind of, traditional sounding waltz. And, for me, I heard this kind of other underlying groove with it. And that's all it kind of was at first. And you want to sing a little bit of
Sure.
that verse? Just as a waltz.
Sure, so just the waltz.
So we had this very straightforward singing waltz, and we had this very pleasant melody. I had this other kind of groove that I was thinking about, and then I kind of challenged Willow to come up with a chorus that had a very heavier feeling. I thought, well, okay, let's shift the rhythm. Let's bring in a whole different feeling for the song to mix it up, and now we'll play kind of how the song wound up being.
songs can evolve and change. Not sure how to adjust the volume on these microphones, but they seem to be feeding that kind of a lot. So, is it this one?
I don't know, I'm guessing.
Well, this one looks like volume also. Anyway, sorry about the feedback. Yeah, I think it's important to allow songs to evolve and change. If I had just been like, no, this is a waltz. I wrote a waltz and it's to stay this way. But instead, we write collaboratively and being open to allowing songs to change and evolve like yourself, and you can come up with something very interesting. And the songs that we write also tend to be changing as we play them throughout their lives, and as we continue to play the songs live, new ideas come up. Someone might just get inspired and do some little lick, and then all of a sudden that has evolved into
It's a whole new song.
It's a whole new song.
I think that one of the great things about playing acoustic music, and one of the great things about a night like tonight and sitting here in this otherwise, like fairly business-like room, is that it's also pretty true to how we do what we do. It's like sitting here just playing the tunes like this together, and how we can do that anywhere. And how like when we stood out in front of you right now, like, we're used to also love just like, it's like playing on the street, you know what I mean? And being able to do that with acoustic instruments is, I think, one of the most powerful things about these styles of music, is being able to bring that into any space and not needing anything to do it other than ourselves and our instruments, of course. But, we all are big believers in just getting up on stage and trying it out. Like, we'll have a song we've never really even worked on before, and we'll just start playing it live, and we'll figure out so much along the way as we go. Just like getting up on stage and failing a bunch of times probably, and then seeing what songs live or die up there on stage. It's almost kind of like the way stand-up comedians work, is how I think about it. Like, they just start telling jokes on stage, and like some of them work, some of them are going to fail. And we've got songs that we'll start playing and that just never really connect with the audience, and then maybe after a few dozen shows we're like, well, maybe that one wasn't meant to be, and we let it go. Or other ones seem to people latch onto it, and they seem to grow with it from there. But we're going to talk a little bit about like the inspirations we found in other folk musics in the world. But before I do that, did anybody want to say anything or ask any other questions? Zero.
We have a
pressure.
translator also, so if you want to ask a question in Russian, it'll be translated to us. So.
Друзья, есть вопросы?
How do you find the stories to the text?
This like inspiration for the words. I think for me, a lot of it comes from reading. I read a lot, and I'm always getting inspired by the stories that I read, and I feel like they usually always give me angles and perspectives into things that I'm trying to say or feel, that I might take, like the little spark of inspiration I found in some character's experience, and that oftentimes tends to lead me to like fleshing out a song, or figuring out the actual angle I want to do. A lot of the songwriting that I do, I feel like I don't consciously think of it like this, but I feel like I'm writing like musical numbers for like a theater piece. Like, they're all characters that are singing about some experience they're having. Like, from my perspective, I feel like I'm always writing the dialogue for some character's story, like for some musical that doesn't actually exist. But that's like a huge part of the way that I approach my songwriting.
Musical Broadway production.
Yeah.
One day, maybe. Yeah, for me, it's like the opposite, because all my stuff is really just me figuring out what's going on in here and not going completely mad from the world and everything. So, or like that last song was just kind of about hanging out at the river with some friends, and
It sounds like a good time river party song.
It's about looking back at a time that was really fun and really nice, and everything has changed now with these people, but it's such a beautiful memory, and then all this emotion is attached to the experience and the relationships and how they've changed, and the friendships and how they've gotten stronger or gone away, and then there's like parallels in the natural world and drawing imagery from this also.
I think this is a fun differentiation in the way that you approach songs, because
Life in general.
none of my songs have anything to do with
you.
my direct experiences. Yeah, for sure. They're all like, people I think are often disappointed that they don't, but for me they're all like, it's like I think of it, once again, like
like a playwright or a novelist. Like it's telling these stories that I think of that very often have almost nothing to do with my actual life.
Which is interesting, because whenever I'm singing like backup vocals for the song, for like the lyrics that you've come up with, and I'm singing your words, I feel like I'm taking them very personally. Also, I'm like relating very directly to the words that I'm singing. I'm learning so much about myself tonight.
Willow and I will just ask questions to each other for the next minutes.
We are very pleasant to meet with you. The question, both of yours, where you was born and did you get musical education?
Go for it.
I was born in Florida, in America, so like the deep south, and in a town called Tallahassee, which is not far from New Orleans. Would be kind of like the nearest major American city. New Orleans is like that's the center of jazz and blues in America. And I grew up in a musical family, not necessarily like professional, but musicians, but always music around all the time, which is even more important than necessarily like some level like that professional musician thing. It was just a big part of the culture of my family. And like my great-grandfather played organ for silent films, and my grandpa played saxophone in big bands, and my dad played guitar and banjo and things like that. So music was always around growing up. And I was always drawn, probably partly through them, because I didn't grow up with a lot of like pop music or like modern music, but I grew up around a lot of like the folk music that they played and like swing and blues. And that was really what I listened to growing up, not just recorded, but in my family being played was the music that I grew up with. And culturally, like in the South in America, like I grew up with a lot of blues and a lot of like the soul swing music that I would hear, and that became a total foundation for like how I approach music and where I come from emotionally with it. And that's always kind of like my roots in it that I reach for.
Yeah, we grew up in a similar region. I'm also from the Southeast, but I grew up in North Carolina, and the opposite though, my family was not musical in the generations that were alive. It was generations back. My grandparents' brothers were jazz musicians, also in New Orleans in the 20s and 30s. So there's kind of this like almost family myth around being a musician, and it's like this real like kind of romanticism built around it. And as a result, I had this intense fear of performing in front of my family, and I actually still possess this fear because it is intense playing music in front of my family. They like convene around you and are just like locked in super hard. And it took me a really long time to get over this fear of performance. It was what became clear when I left home and began my independent adult life. Music was taking a very strong shape in how my career path was going to be going. And so getting over this fear of performance and that connection to my family and those expectations was a huge part of that. There's no classical training though. I was in choir in school and in church, and I took piano lessons when I was a kid, but the rest of it was just sort of singing along with the music that I liked and learning songs that I liked on whatever instrument happened to be around at the time. So.
Еще вопросы?
I have one more question about songwriting and performing. For example, you feel something, you have some idea, you're making a song. I don't know, 2 years later, your state of mind is changing. Your feelings are slightly different, maybe not slightly. How are you performing the old songs? It should be true. Yes, you can lie. How do you make it?
Or how you tap into that. That's an interesting. I think that's like there we go. That's like the constant performer's paradox of how to bring that energy every night to a song that maybe you've played 2,000 times. I think it's the exact. For me, I think it's acting. And it's exactly the same thing that you might like anybody who's performing the same piece of theater for years in a row. It's the exact same skill. it's all acting in that way, and it's like you're tapping into any of them. Wake up, anybody. They're all dead. It's fine. I can just yell at you guys. We got those mics over there. There we go. Cheers.
Do you want to take this one for the audience? Okay.
It's all right.
It's okay. This is...
Yeah, so I think the boring answer, like the totally real, not exciting insider's info, is that it's all made up acting nonsense. Yeah, it's just it's theater. It's the exact same skill set. Like I grew up doing theater as well, and that was a huge part of my family was doing like dramatic theater, and grew up on stage in that way too. And before I even started trying to play music in a performative way, I was doing theater, and it's the exact same thing. And it's like, no matter how many times you've done the song, tapping into that emotional quality of it, that to the audience, it seems like it's the first time you've ever played it, you know? And that's not always the easiest thing in the world, and sometimes you're really tired, and sometimes you're sick, or sometimes the audience is not giving you anything, and it's a challenge, but that's, you know, I mean, that is like, I guess where the like professionalism part of it comes in. It's like no matter what, you're gonna do your best to fight through that. And even if you're just in a space like this, which is, you know, fairly sterile, not necessarily like a performative space, being able to stand here and still hopefully get a little bit of that quality when you watch us do these songs. So for me, I don't ever worry about that, or like, am I the person who wrote that song 3 years ago? If it was a good song, then, or if the audience likes it at least, then I am gonna love doing it every night, no matter how many times I perform that song.
I agree with you.
And yet, you've so often said the opposite.
I think this also ties in with something we said earlier about songs evolving over time. We're lucky in the sense that we're not like this big mainstream rock band where we have to play the same guitar solo.
Don't listen to her. We're a huge mainstream rock band.
It plays to your advantage that we're not, because we can let the songs evolve. If you get, like, there's one song, for example, I wrote before I knew how to play the accordion, and I wrote it on guitar, and it was like a very straightforward jazz song, and then over the time it's totally taken just a huge arc in its life. And the words are the same. I haven't changed the words, but the way the music is played and the feeling of the song has changed and has become more mature and more and has remained relevant to us in our lives as performers and in that song.
What song are we talking about?
Devil on My Shoulder.
Oh, okay, very good.
Should be played.
Play a little bit of it, yeah.
We don't have to.
No, look.
No, it's fine. Let's keep talking.
Let's not play it.
Let's never play again.
Yeah. We're breaking up the band right now.
Please
Nice.
don't.
It was a good run. See you guys. All right.
I just imagine that you can create some layer between you and the song. So you can have every day you can have a new point of view for your old song. So you can translate with.
Yeah, I think that's true too. I think that I have, the more you, for me anyways, also the more I play a song, the more I find, like the more depth I find in it. And it could be that if it's the 5,000th time I've played a song, like if I'm still being present in the moment of playing that tune, then I am going to find new things in it. Like you're just going to keep digging deeper and deeper and deeper. You know, it's like Shakespearean actors who spend their whole lives performing the same 30 plays. Like they only find more and more depth in what they're doing, you know? And I think that, why do they
It's like a, okay.
like that, and it's the same, for me I try to have the same attitude. It's like, I'm just gonna find more. Like the more I do it, I'm just gonna find more inside of it and more nuance and different ways of approaching it. You know, I think it also gets into like the folk tradition that we're so inspired by, and how it's acknowledging one of the things that is so true about the folk tradition that is different to the narrative of a lot of like the present day attitudes that like the media presents about like mainstream music, and like it started sometimes starting in the 20th century with this idea of like people being the sole original creators of the music. Like there was just going to be this one genius who made these sounds that were something that had never come before. like in American music, like people like Jimi Hendrix or Bob Dylan or whatever, like that narrative of these being these people who created this thing that was totally new, and that I think is largely just a weird media creation. And whereas like folk music it understands that we're just whoever you are in your generation in making music, you're just the forward part of a wave that's been cresting as far as people have been making music, and that you are just the next like link in that chain. And that's the most dramatically brought up by like the idea of these folk tunes that you take and make your own, often by like writing your own lyrics, and that there's very common like themes and refrains and types of songs, that the idea wasn't that this person was going to come along and write this whole new body of work. It was that you would take these ideas that people already could relate to, and you would rewrite it in your own voice, but it was just going to be a reworking of this previous material. And that wasn't anything weird. I mean, that was how music just evolved. And as a dramatic example of that, are you familiar, have any of you guys ever heard the tune Staggerly? Ever heard of that one? Doesn't matter, I'm just asking.
Nick Cage plays that.
So yeah, Nick Cave has this verse. So Staggerly is like one of the most like famous old like American folk tunes. It dates from the late 1800s of an actual like incident that occurred, this murder that occurred. These two guys quarreling, Staggerly and William. I always forget his last name, but the song is called Billy. But so it was an actual like incident that occurred in the late 1800s. And somebody wrote a little song about it, and it spread from there all over the country. By the early, like 1900s in America, it's like one of the most well-known like American blues or folk tunes. And it has spawned, as well it should, I think, and this is like the truest example of like folk music, everybody's own version of it. Probably the most famous modern version of it is Nick Cave's Staggerly, which is his own radically different one that sounds, totally unique to him. And we have our own version of it, which we'll play for you now. Whereas, like, we take that form and we took a very old form of it that was called the original Staggerly Blues, is what the name of this one was inspired by. And you could go on YouTube and look up the original Staggerly Blues. But we took that form, and I just sort of wrote all my own words over it, and to put my own spirit into it and how I felt about it. So let's see here. Jump in G real fast.
Once more we find Staggerly, the pistol in his hand. Billy boy before him looking like he understands. Let it go, let it go. Now Stagger says to Billy, would you look what we have done? Before we can stand right here and run circles round the sun. Let it go, let it go. Cause you ain't been nobody, nobody ain't been me. Cause there ain't never been nobody like Billy Boy or Staggerly. And let it go, let it go. And if killing's not the answer, well, I don't know what is. Cause I've never heard a question make a difference in the end. And let it go, let it go. Still we could flip a coin if it's luck that you'd respect, but it'll only come up heads, and it's yours that I'll collect. So let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go. and let it go, let it go. 'Cause after every you of me, and after every me of you, and after every song we sing, we add another verse or two. Let it go, let it go. See, Billy, I'm an entrance, oh, an exit from your wrongs. I will wrench apart your night until the breaking of your dawn. Let it go, let it go. Billy said, don't kill me, for I am afraid to die. Stagger laughed and said, I know I am, but what am I? Let it go, let it go. 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 Let it go, let it go.
So if you go look up the original Stagger Lee Blues on YouTube, then that recording is from about 1926, and you can hear the similarities from there, and then also how different ours is. Hopefully that's instructive.
How are we on time?
We're
Are you
great.
sure?
Actually, we have 20 minutes.
Dang.
Can I ask
We're just hanging
a
out,
question,
yeah.
please? You've told previously that you're trying to act. You are acting like in the theater while playing a song again and again and again for many years. Were there situations when you understood that I have to stop playing this song, that this acting just piss me off,
Yeah.
or something like that? And what made you to do this?
Well, I mean, I feel like I experienced this more than you do. He's better at acting than I am. I think often things can become stagnant. And it is just as important as it is to allow things to change and recreate the song. If you need to keep it relevant, it's also okay to put it down. Take it out. No, to set it aside for a time. And know that you can come back to it later, and maybe you'll be reinvigorated, and it'll have more meaning, or you can be like, oh right, this is fun. I remember now. Hey, what if we like new ideas can come up and change a part, or find some way to make it more fun. Or if your bandmate is really sad that we don't play this song anymore, then you have to act out again that you actually like.
I feel like it's always we will put songs away for a little while and they'll come back. But I always get frustrated with that because I feel like if I get tired of a song, then it's just like a failure on my part to not interact with it. Because I feel like if I'm really present with it, then I never get tired of it. So if I feel like I'm getting burnt out, then I feel like I've just failed to pay attention to it,
But it's hard too because you're writing music, we're always writing new songs too, so you have to figure out the balance there of like, when do you let the song go for a little bit and bring in this new material so you can keep the songwriting engine running, and so it's good to I think keep the whole song list active. Like our song list is a full page of just tons of songs, and we can pick and choose from them as we want. And then you don't get bored as much because your repertoire is so big. You can just kind of mix and match set lists as you go along, and always do something different. So it's a good question.
Еще вопросы? I don't want to destroy the atmosphere of music and creative.
Destroy it.
Yeah, burn. What about music business? What about money?
What about it?
Because I'm an organizer of the festival, the gigs, and so on. For me, more interesting what is the main work. Music, it is work for you or not? And how you promote your music in your own country and all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we've been lucky the past few years, and we've just been making a living off our music, and that's been kind of that rhythm has changed at different times. But yeah, the past few years, it's been our only job, and we've been very fortunate in that way. Not making like mainstream music, you have some limited options. If you don't make like pop music or like music that's likely to show up on the radio or things like that, the main thing you can control is playing shows and playing as much as you possibly can, which means being on the road a lot. And luckily, I think one of the great strengths that we've had, and not just the two of us, but the larger collective that we've taken on the road and played with as well, is being on tour a lot. And that would be getting into a much like longer conversation about how the nature, like the music industry, has changed in the past couple of decades. But playing shows is one of the only dependable ways that artists have left of making money anymore, because so much of the money from recordings or buying albums has disappeared. So it all comes down to really playing as many shows as we're physically capable of. And so that is the main means of promotion too. It's like if you're out there all the time and you're coming back to the same cities, if you're coming back to the same cities 2 or 3 times a year and they know they can count on you and they know they're going to see you again, then that becomes kind of a slow way of doing it compared to like, say, having a viral video or something like that online, but you can't like force a viral video to happen. That's like winning the lottery. So while you're waiting around hoping that a video goes big, you can be playing 200 shows a year, and you can at least handle that part. And so that's a huge part of what we do, and our strategy is just being out there all the time. I think that playing live shows for us is the main point of making music at all for us. And so that's what we try to focus on, yeah.
And I want to continue this story. What about the bands? I don't know. I know that all over the world there are a lot of bands who have a lot of views on YouTube, who got money from the commercials and streams on YouTube. But when you go and see them alive, they're awful. They don't have any energy and etc. But they, I think, earn much. They earn more money than you. But you are live and you are good. You are great. You are so much. We need to experience your music alive.
Sure, thank you.
Yes, and have you ever thought about some special strategy for YouTube, for video content in the internet, to promote your music more and to get maybe some money from the views and from the commercials?
How can we sell out harder, you guys? Tell me. I want to know. I don't know. We try to have good videos, but besides, you can't just control it. I mean, you can't, if you're not trying to make like mainstream music and trying to chase that kind of success through that way, it just seems like basically trying to win the lottery. Like, it might happen, but you can't control it, I mean, you could put all the money and time into a video and be like, oh man, this is the one that everyone's going to look at, and then barely anybody looks at it, you have no idea. Meanwhile, some band might just put out a little video they made on their phone, and through who knows what reason, they might get, 50 million views. You have no idea. And I've definitely seen that phenomenon in like Portland, where we live, which is kind of a hotbed for bands in America right now. I've seen that phenomenon happen with some bands where they've had a video go viral out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden they're in a position where they've got some promoters or agents that want them to be on the road or doing these shows, but they have like no experience to be able to handle that. And so I think that leads to the phenomenon that you've witnessed of maybe you see the band get big really fast and you go see them and you're like, oh man, what is that? It's rough, But a lot of times it might just have to do with the lack of the experience of being on stage. So once again, it comes down to like, what can you control? And so for us, once again, it's like just being able to do a ton of shows, and that's what we love doing. And it also keeps us sharp, and hopefully audiences recognize that. It's like, without any even without any like a lot of modern equipment or whatever, like being able to summon that energy regardless, even if it's just in a setting like this. So, you know, but yeah, if you have a great viral video idea, then I'm here.
Okay, I'll try to think about it. Еще вопросы, друзья?
Do you have a director or manager or who booked all places if you have 200 shows in a year?
It depends on where we are. When we are in America, actually we're pretty much independent. I do all of our like American booking. But we also spend a lot of time in Europe, in like Germany, Austria, that kind of area. And we have an agency that brings us over there and they handle all of that. So yeah, it all just depends on where we are and what the logistics look like. Between the two though, I do almost all the American booking and the agency handles the European booking. And then we have also worked with consulates in different countries that have helped us come to those countries, for instance, where we are right now, which, you know, help us get way farther than we might be able to on our own, and especially countries where it might be like just very expensive or like the logistics of getting there, like coming here would be very hard for an American band to do. And so we're very fortunate to be able to have that assistance as well. Yeah.
Еще вопросы?
I'd like to extend the topic with music business Natalia put in. What do you do with the new song? So if you have the new song in your band, what is the main idea? Whom you show it to? Some, I don't know, to your dad or to your, I don't know, to your friends, or you know exactly some places on your tour map where it's good to present the song, and how do you get the feedback? So because yes, this you can put something on YouTube and you can see how many likes you have. So and you can understand this song is more, it's better for, I don't know, for starting the show or for finishing the show and so on. What is your experience on that? Thank you.
I think for us, it all happens on stage. Like most of it happens on stage.
We do so much on stage. We don't think about it quite. I mean, there's some shows that might be a little more official or fancy or something. So kind of be like, let's just keep it simple and very straightforward and play the songs that we know very well, that are hard hitters. But mostly our process is so mercurial and evolving all the time. It's easy to bring in. We'll show each other the new song first. We won't just go up on stage and be like, hey, I have a new idea. Come on, let's do it. We have a rehearsal for the new stuff and then start performing, because on stage where all the energy is where so much of that creative process happens, and you can make those calls like, is this a good ending song? Is this a good beginning song? Hey, that song is in the same key and it kind of goes into this other rhythm of this other song, maybe we can turn it into a medley. So those sorts of things happen.
Or is a song just sucking? Like, is it just not committing? Is the audience just not connecting with it? We've definitely thrown songs out there and it just doesn't work, and so you just let it go. But I think that that's one thing that I think is kind of unique about us that I don't see a ton of other bands doing, at least to the extent that we will do, is we usually don't even have set lists. I just have this page of songs, and the rest of the band won't know like what we're going to play. I just call them out as we go. And a lot of times there might be a rehearsal or two to get a new song up on stage, but there's definitely been times that I've just been like, we're just going to play this song now, and the rest of the band hasn't even played it, and we just start playing it. And it sucks at first. Maybe it doesn't suck. I mean, we're good at our jobs, so we can fake our way through whatever, but it's rough. We're just still figuring it out. And then 200 shows later, it's like, we have a strong idea what that song is. But I think like letting that stuff live or die on stage, because there's no truer feedback than just being on stage and seeing what an audience does with it. Because if I just played all my songs for my dad, then I would just think all my songs were amazing.
It's true, because your dad loves all of the songs.
He just likes all of them.
It's so funny when he's in the audience.
He'd be a horrible person for me to judge.
It's true, don't ever do that.
We have 3 minutes left, and I think that all of us would like you to sing one more song.
Sounds good.
So
I'm into it.
it's kind.
What's it gonna be? What do you want to do?
Let's do
You want a fast one, slow one? Ooh, yeah.
We play the song.
Yeah.
What about the band name? What it means for?
Oh, you know, it's not a very exciting story.
It's a very exciting story.
It's a lyric from a poem, a nursery rhyme. So it's a poem for kids. It's about counting birds, and for however many birds you see, it means something like 1 for sorrow, 2 for joy, 3 for silver, 4 for gold. Except the version that I remembered is not real. 3 for silver is not part of the poem. So, but at that point it was too late. So I even like, oh, that's a cool band name, and told him, and he was like, yeah, that's a cool band name. Let's never talk about it or think about it again. So we locked it in, put it on the band logo, made the website, everything, and then
Once it's on the logo, you can't do anything.
and then everyone's asking me, what does it mean?
Doesn't mean
It doesn't
anything.
mean anything. Or it means everything.
I think that, yeah, band names, it's just like it should kind of sound like something, but not actually mean anything, and then never think about it again. Never change it or talk about it ever again.
Whether that's a good idea or not.
Good job, good job.
Thank you.
Okay, so you want that bass or that bass? Which one?
That bass.
That one, very good. You want fast song, slow song?
Fasty one.
Okay, that guy's calling all the
So the
shots.
fast
over
one
there.
with the slow part in the middle.
Yeah.
That gets fast again.
I hope you like the song. If you don't, it's his fault. Have a G. You can go.
What are we getting? Okay. Just wish I was sitting down in front of it.
That sweet sound. Oh, but I know there's no reason to cry tonight. But I feel so lonely inside. Don't know what to do.
But I'll be when the sun comes shining through. There's a whisper in the dark night.
everybody in the room. Thanks. All right.
I think that fear kidnap our hearts right now.
Likewise.
Друзья, давайте еще разочек поблагодарим. Я бы хотела сказать слова благодарности за то, что сегодня состоялась эта лекция, за то, что состоялось выступление группы Trifla Silver Генеральному консульству США в городе Екатеринбурге. Большое спасибо.